Tenpai has officially left its mark on the TCG, getting several top cut spots at YCS Rio. And while I'm still here, I wanted to give you guys a video on how to defeat Tenpai. While some decks you can just play your own game plan and hand trap or interrupt the first thing and it'll work out, like Snake Eyes, that'll work a lot of the time. Versus Tenpai, it's not that simple. It's a deck that'll quite often punish you for making the wrong plays against it. Now, Tenpai's strength comes from the fact that it's a battle phase deck, and a lot of its powerful plays are in the battle phase, but in the main phase still has the power of Sangen Summoning. The field spell that adds the card back to hand is a consistency piece, but also protecting you guys from activated effects means that, for the most part, it's hard to interrupt them. The obvious answer there is if we have spell and trap card removal, then fantastic. If you have the Cosmic Cyclone, a good way to do it is sometimes not to Cosmic immediately on the effect of Sangen Summoning, let them commit a few bodies first. Because what you can do here is make your opponent commit to the field, and once you've committed bodies to the field, you can then Cosmic the field spell, use the IP, and this burns some of the finite resources that Tenpai has, being its normal summon or its limited ways to extend. So their plays are a bit fragile if you're able to catch them open like that. Now the other approach is obviously still to go after the consistency, and that would mean hitting the Sangen Summoning straight away whenever they use the effect. So I think that approach is actually better than trying to choke out your opponent's resources and using it on the effect to search of Sangen Summoning. Now if you don't have a way to interact with the monsters on field, then yeah, you may as well do it on the search effect. But what I like doing this way, because Tenpai is really good at playing with one cards. If you trade one for one with their cards, like get into a simplified game state, they are going to thrive. Where the deck isn't good, however, is its ability to only make pushes in specific spots and only a certain amount of times per turn. So if you're able to choke them off in the tempo sense, I find that oftentimes to be a lot more effective. So something to know, if you do have action removal, it is good against the deck either way, but you can be using it more smartly to yield better results. Now in that same fashion, the way that Tenpai plays, its ability to unclog redundancy and play with one card extremely well, means it's actually pretty good in a lot of grind games and in simplified game states. This sort of hand trap war or one-for-one type of gameplay, it usually favors the deck that has more consistency cards, doesn't have bricks in its hand, and then also is able to do with more with one card. Now, while Snake Eye can do more with one card, it does have some redundancy issues and does have more bricks in the deck than the Tenpai deck does. And I think that leads a lot of the time the Tenpai deck to be favored in these top deck wars or these late grind games. The issue with Tenpai can be it can run out of resources. So if you're playing a deck that gets to a grind game, you could shift your approach rather than being tempo related or choking them out of resources immediately. You could rather try and run them out of resources. With only 8 to 9 main deck monsters, if you just wait that out, you can beat them a fair bit of the time. On the topic of running your Tenpai opponents out of resources, one of the best cards to do so is Destructive Daruma Cannon. Now, this card obviously has battle phase implications as well, but while we're still talking about the main phase, this card is incredible because as long as there's something to set face down, you can activate it, set a card face down, and then afterwards, even if the Tenpais in the field are unaffected by Sangen Summoning, they will get sent to the graveyard. The Daruma bypasses that and they lose their bodies. So this is great because obviously it'll stop them from amassing huge fields in the main phase, but then also you are going to be running out of resources. So it's better than almost anything else. And it's a big reason why I played Summon the Labyrinth. I wanted to play Daruma Cannon in my deck, a card that I feel is incredibly strong in so many matchups, Tenpai just being one, but it really does shine in that matchup. The next thing to talk about is how we want to hand trap during the main phase, with Ash Blossom being one of the most weird ones to navigate. The obvious target for Tenpai is the Quick Play spell, because it's essentially emergency teleport during the battle phase or Rhoda during the main phase 1. And once they get to the battle phase, they're no longer under protection of the field spell. This is for sure where you want to Ash. However, if your opponent leads with Hydra to add one back to hand, and there's no summoning on the field and it's immune, you have to wonder, okay, they probably don't already have the field spell. Then if this card adds the field spell here and they activate it, and then use that effect to search, if Ash is your only form of interruption, you can't hold it for the Quick Play spell anymore. Because if they get the Chandra, the orange Tenpai, you will still die. And that effect cannot be Ash in the damage step, so that's not going to be a reliable strategy either. So while the general rule of thumb is if you can hold it for the Quick Play spell, don't stick to that rule. You have to be flexible. Sometimes we'll have to Ash the Sangen Summoning and really the Hydra as well. Now Ash also has other implications. If you are getting into a grind game, then holding Ash for the effect of Heretic Seal could be relatively important. Because if they use Heretic Seal during the battle phase and then summon a Fadra from the deck, special back Chandra from the grave, and make level 7 synchros during your battle phase, it can actually quite ruin you. So that could be a meaningful hold to use later in the turn if it's not going to do anything else earlier. But besides that, Valor and Perm really aren't doing anything in the main phase. If your opponent summons a Hydra and there's no field spell on the field, then fantastic, you get good value, and you should do that. But Otherwise, there's no opportunity to use them, so nothing to talk about. Alright, so we'll talk about how to navigate the main phase versus Tenpai, but battle phase is also incredibly important because it's not super simple. Effective quick synchro is once per turn per copy, but you can use multiples, and they'll have 3 quick synchro summons if all 3 are on field. So what this means is effects that designate a target immediately aren't going to work. And this goes just past targeting, because yes, if you imperm something, it's not going to do anything. But it also means, like, if you Ghost Ogre something in the battle phase, like they go quick synchro, you go Chain Ogre, they'll chain the other one to quick synchro, and you will have accomplished nothing. So Ghost Ogre is for sure not a card you should be saving for the battle phase. It should be for the main phase, hitting the field spell, and that's pretty much it. Now, in light of the fact that they can quick synchro like that, it does mean your disruption in the battle phase still has to be pretty attuned to what Tenpai is doing. And this is where your mass removal, your non-targeting cards really shine. We've seen cards like the Rumor Cannon, like I said, be really good, but what also seems to be doing pretty well is in the Book of Eclipse. And for similar reasons, you may not get the bonus of sending everything to the grave during the main phase, and you may give your opponent some draws, but for the tempo here, and if you're not trying to play a value game versus Tenpai, you're trying to play this tempo game of turn off their turn, it's fantastic, because they really don't have much they can do about it besides Ash Blossom, and if they change quick synchro, anything they summon will be booked face down before it gets used on summon effects. I think Book of Eclipse is actually pretty good versus deck, and it's nice because it has coverage in other matchups as well. I think it's pretty solid going first against Snake Eye, and then going second versus Snake Eye can also do just fine. Also, just in general, I mean, Quick Play Spell versus a trap card that gives you more flexibility if the Tenpai player does decide to start, and unlike Crystal Wing or the Blackwing Dragon or both, for example, you can Eclipse, and that's a decent solution. But besides that, it's those non-targeting type effects that are going to be king. If you do find yourself with the Impermanence at this point, never had a chance to use it during the main phase because they had the field spell up, the important thing to know here is you can't use it on an effect that is already activated because of the quick synchro. What you want to be using it for is typically on the Chundra. On Chundra you can use it, and then they won't be able to special summon out from the deck unless you synchro it away and make a new one, which you have to be careful of. Trident Dragon can reset it pretty easily, so this isn't a foolproof plan. However, the new level 10 synchro actually invalidates Imperm, so that wouldn't be reliable either. The really only one you can use it on is Trident Dragon specifically. So it's a bit risky because you could get it popped by their Trident Dragon's graveyard effect or the new Trident Dragon's graveyard effect, or just not be able to activate it because of the new Trident Dragon. All of that would leave you rather useless. And there's nothing to talk about effect failure. It's not usable in the battle phase here, so you fall victim to the same issues. If you have Ghost Mourner and they special summon Chundra during the battle phase, this is where you use it because that card can't activate till damage type anyways. This is your chance to get some way out of the card, albeit it might not be that much. Okay, so now we've gone over kind of the 2 biggest phases. Let's talk about the broad aspect. What cards can we play that are specifically designed to counter Tenpai in our side deck or our extra deck? Some of the ones we've been seeing a lot in Snake Eye, if you're a Snake Eye duelist, is the 2 little birds. Kikanagishi Fucho and the Luralisk Nightingale, I think. I don't know which one, but it's the one that can't take battle damage. The Fucho is weak to cards like Kaiju's, Herald the Abyss, and Santa Claus. However, the Luralisk can be hit by Forbidden Chalice and Forbidden Droplet, so it's not going to be a foolproof plan regardless. One thing to be careful of with Fucho is it's not going to stop you from taking battle damage directly. It is going to be protecting itself. And what this does mean is the new level 10 Synchro could still screw you if you leave too many monsters in the field. New level 10 Synchro would turn all your guys to attack mode, at which point, if they summon a Trident Dragon, hit up to 6k and attack a bunch of guys, you might still die. Another option which has been seemingly pretty good in decks against summon level 4s is Baguska. Baguska is great because it hits them in the main phase as well. It's not going to be weak to the field spell, it's non-activated effect, and because all their guys are in defense mode and their effects are negated, it's going to force them to have a non-engine out. So cards like Impermanence, Droplet, Chalice are going to be essential to outing that Baguska, but obviously it's not a guarantee that you'll be safe. Now, they do have the ability to link summon. They aren't just locked into synchros, so you could argue that they can't have Baguska via links, but there's not really one that exists too easily. They can have Speed Little Knight and banish it, but they can't attack directly, so you're kind of chilling and you can go guarantee you have another turn. Now, aside from that, a lot of people are playing cards that affect the battle phase. Threatening Roar, Thunder of the Ruler are prime examples. Now, the reason you do this is keep them off the battle phase, which where they thrive, people to kill you. And if you're guaranteeing a second turn, if your engine is better at putting up interrupts and playing through fields, then theoretically that's where you want to be. However, you have to be careful with this that you aren't going to be too weak to non-engine, because again, the Tenpai will have a lot of non-engine in this case. And it's not like they put up 0 interrupts. Be familiar with cards like Erratic Seal, Crystal Wing, those could come for sure. SP Little Knight to be expected. And so you can't really fully rely on the battle phase stoppers from being foolproof. Now, one card that is a battle phase-esque type thing, but I think is actually really bad, is Ghost Mourner. The way it works is they'll get the Trident Dragon out, they'll pop the field spell, get up to 6,000, attack 3 times. You may have mitigated every single other summon of a Tenpai that turn and effectively set that to 0. But as long as the Trident Dragon deals 18,000 damage, you're still taking 15k. So I really don't think Ghost Mourner is a viable option at protecting yourself from the Tenpai deck. And if you're looking for a side deck card to beat them, stay clear from this. There's many other better options. Now the best option I think still is Dimensional Barrier. Now we talked about cutting them off of the battle phase, and then cutting them off of Synchros or Tuner Access is another great way to beat them. Now they still have access to Erratic Seal, and sometimes they can do fire plays where they go like Charmer into Princess and to Zelantis combos, and that's still somewhat viable, but if you have anything else to back it up, that combo is fragile. It loses to all the hand traps, it loses to, you know, almost anything. But if you have a board full of lack of interruptions, then yeah, the barrier by itself will not cut it if they're able to get multiple bodies out and are doing this line. As well as barriers having the best overlap going first against all the other decks in the format, like Despia, Pearly, Chimera, Melodious. It's just so much. Another card that's been gaining a lot of traction is Summon Archifiends. I really don't think this card is that good. Now, against Tenpai, you cut them off of making a second Synchro summon a lot of the time. So if they go attack 3 times and Synchro for level 7, then bring it back, and you activate Summon Archifiends, you will cut them off. However, there's still a lot of damage being presented, and main phase 2, they can link away, resynchro, do other stuff, and it's not like you really have that much control of what's going on, because there are ways to play around it. I think with the existence of links, it's not that good. Going back to the battle phase approach for a second, if we try and cut off your battle phase or stay alive via that method with a Lyrlis, an important thing to note is they do have Ruddy Rose Dragon. And now if you're trying into a long game and a grind game, this is probably one of the most important things to be cognizant of. Because if you're playing like Tenpai, for example, and you have both of your Flameless Dragons in the graveyard, then if they Ruddy Rose you, you'll lose follow-up, because you'll probably lose Oak as well, you'll lose both Flame Burges, any original Symbol Spoils, and you'll make it actually kind of hard to kill them, especially if they have any sort of defenses afterwards, like a Erratic Seal or another hand trap. Now this could come up in other matchups as well, but it's just incredibly important because that Ruddy Rose Dragon is the main way of them shifting gears from this OTKU game plan to now this grind game plan, where they're going to try and simplify the game state as much as possible. And like I said earlier, the simplified game state they can also thrive in because the cards just do so much by themselves. So something to be careful of and avoid. If you can play Sunlight Wolf and you can add back a Flame Birds, that's like maybe an answer, or just not leaving them all vulnerable at the same time. Leaving one in deck could be fine as well, because realistically, if you know you're playing versus Tenpai, you don't need to make this insane field. If you can just connect your bird maybe a little bit more and then set up good follow-up, that is exactly what you want to do, because you shouldn't underestimate what Tenpai can do when it can't kill you, because it can still do a decent bit. Anyways, I think that covers pretty much all of the ways you should be playing against Tenpai. How to use the common staples you're already playing in your deck, what side cards to use, what not to use, and how to just kind of approach the matchup, what their weaknesses are and what their strengths are. If you like these type of videos for when a new meta deck comes out on how to approach playing against it, and if you appreciate me doing these on-location videos as well, where I can be speedier about it rather than waiting until I get home, then yeah, feedback is appreciated, so let me know. Other than that, I will see you guys all next time. Peace.